we got a lot of patterns, right? Similar to previous cycles. I've said this before. History doesn't repeat, but it tends to rhyme. There are a lot of similarities to previous cycles. This one into the 2017 cycle. Very, very similar. You got this consolidation period, and then you go higher, which I think could start after the rate cut, or if we have to wait a little bit longer in October. We're going to see the same things. It always repeats. History never fails. Here's something else too, showing the previous cycles. And we're at that zone where you really don't want to quit. Some of the manipulation going on, some of the scariness, the volatility is meant to drive you away while the big boys accumulate, like BlackRock and others, right? But, you know, this is their last chance, because once we start moving upwards here, okay, they're not going to be able to do any of that anymore. Right now, it's kind of like a scary time before the huge rise up. Same thing every single cycle, except the numbers get bigger. The numbers get bigger both ways. You get higher lows, higher highs. It never changes, and it just keeps on going. So here's something else that shows the previous cycles till now, like drawdowns. If you guys thought that the current drawdowns that we've had so far are bad, you haven't lived through any of the drawdowns from previous cycles. We have seen many. This cycle so far, our worst drawdown was about 30-something%. Okay. But if you look at the last cycle, we had a drawdown down how much? Like 50%, 40%, multiple times. And even the prior cycle, we had how many? A dozen times where Bitcoin fell down 30, 40%. So this is the tamest cycle we've ever had so far, right? A lot of people still are new to this space. They don't quite understand. And I know it could be scary and it sucks, obviously, when things come down. But this is the tamest cycle we've ever had in history of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is growing and maturing. And of course, the numbers are way bigger, so it's harder to manipulate. So over time, we're just going to see less and less volatility as Bitcoin gets bigger and mature and more adopted. That's just how it is. And the beauty is Bitcoin is already the 6th largest asset in the world, even compared to countries. Bitcoin's worth more than UK. Think about that. I don't know if that's actually true, but according to this, Bitcoin is worth more than the UK itself, worth more than Switzerland, India, Australia, Russia, Hong Kong. Not as much as Japan or China or the United States, but one day Bitcoin will be on top of this chart, above gold. That will come. It's got to give it patience. Well, you got to have patience, not give it patience. You just got to wait. Maybe in 10 years, 20 years. And of course, you know, guys like BlackRock, Larry Fink know that. Within 8 months' time, BlackRock is now the 3rd largest Bitcoin holder. 3rd largest in 8 months. Do the math. What about another 8 months? If BlackRock accumulates at the same pace in another 8 months, BlackRock will be above Binance, right? Around 700,000, maybe 800,000. You give it another 8 months, you add another 300,000 to it. Hey, in 2 years, BlackRock may have more Bitcoin than Satoshi Nakamoto, right? They will be number 1. Not a good place to be, but Larry Fink understands that unfortunately you have one of the evil doers now that truly understands about Bitcoin and understands that if they buy enough, they can control the market. And that's exactly what they're doing, right? So don't let that happen. Save some for yourself, right? Even Mara is buying Bitcoin left and right. They just borrow $300 million to buy more Bitcoin. Rather than mining themselves, they're like, we don't have enough. They raised $300 million worth of debt and bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin recently, right? So this is what I've been saying for years. Don't be afraid. Load up when you can. Or if you can't, just hodl. Let the gains come to you, right? When others are panicking, that's when you load up. Like right now, you got the fear and greed index in extreme fear, right? And this relates to the video I'm going to show you guys. We haven't really seen fear levels this low for a very long time. Recently, we've been hovering around the 25 level for a while, but you could see we haven't seen it going all the way back to 2023. You know, so right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that the fear level is this high when Bitcoin is still hovering around 58,000. It really makes no sense. And I'm going to prove it to you guys why it makes no sense. Right? But usually when you have elevated levels of fear for a long time, that's usually when Bitcoin reverses and comes back up. And a lot of charts show that. Here's one that is showing. Stochastic is oversold, and whenever we see that, you know, there's a reversal, right? Like sometimes small, but today, like we had a bounce, for example, right? Also, we're having the very first golden cross with the 100 and 200 weekly. We've never, ever had that before, which is very, very bullish indeed. We have global liquidity that's starting to rise up because countries around the world are cutting rates and starting to print money, right? And whenever this happens, you can see how Bitcoin's chart relates. It goes up. Those charts show Bitcoin going up and up and up when global liquidity starts going up. And guess what's happening? Global liquidity is starting to rise. Countries around the world are starting to print more money and lower interest rate because they want the liquidity to start flowing. And that's great for assets. Great for assets, right? Here's a fractal pattern comparing to our current movement to the 2022 COVID crash. And then, you know, this broadening microphone or whatever, broadening wedge. And what happens afterwards? Boom. We start going up, right? We're waiting for that next leg up. It's going to come soon. You just have to be patient. And when I say soon, it could be as soon as this month after the huge rate cut, or it could come in October, which is the most bullish month for all of crypto. October is a fantastic month. Last year, we went up 28%. Years before, we have seen 30, 40, 50% gains in October. Right? So you just have to be patient, continue to hodl, and DCA when you can.